Okay, well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our first college prep workshop in the summer of 2022. I'm gonna, you can see me on the screen, you can see Diego on the screen, and in the background of my picture, you can see Judy Purdy. If you don't know Judy, she is one of our college counselors. That's all she does at Blackstone. She joined us last year after, what, 25 years? How many years in college admissions?
38.
38 years in college admissions, director of admissions at Wheaton for a long time. And the great thing about having Judy with us is that she can really give us the inside scoop from an admissions officer's perspective. So we are going to get into our first session. We're going to be doing 4 of these. At the end, it is going to have the link for the other times. And we're going to get started now. We're recording this. None of you are on with us. I already have permission from Diego and all of that. I'm trying to just get rid of some clutter here so that we can see the screen that I'm sharing. And I can get this. I want to get us small and gone. Let me see if I can just get our people to here. I'm trying to just get these pictures out and get my presentation big. Let's see what I can do. Maybe I'm just going to do it. There we go. Now I'm in the right place. All right. So we want to tell you what we are going to try to do because we only have 4 workshops. And this is one of these things where we could talk about every aspect of applying for college, but we can't because we only have 4 workshops. We're just trying to give people an opportunity to get ahead if they haven't started a lot of the planning that we think is really important, especially for those of you who plan to apply to many four-year colleges and or some very competitive, hard to get into four-year colleges. We really would like you to go through these workshops some way or another before we start school. And the first day of school, by the way, is August 31st. So it's now we're just into July a little bit. So we've got a long way to go. But basically, we want to make sure that many of you might have learned a lot of the language of college planning when you went to a college fair or just doing some of the things that you did this spring. But we want to make sure you're really all on the same page with that before we do too much more. We also want to make sure you are looking at yourself and reflecting on the things that you know about yourself as you're planning your college list. We want you to know some helpful tools and resources you can use when you're planning. There are so many available to you. It's crazy. We want to try to not only get you a really good long list of colleges to consider, but we want you to start moving towards a shorter list. And we want that list to be what we would call well curated or figured out in a way that there's been some processes that you have used and you've really thought about it. You've done some research, that it's not just a put together, list that you haven't done a lot of thought on. The reason we want your list to be well curated is because we're going to be able to help you with the really important stuff later on if we're not having to spend as much time with you curating your list in the fall. So if you follow some of the steps we give you, that will mean we'll have a lot more time to spend with you on your specific applications, your specific essays, etc. We do want to give you some hints about some of the supplemental questions that you might be asked to answer, but particularly the ones that might help you actually solidify your list. One example I'll give you is many colleges will ask the question, why are you applying to our college? and they might ask it in different ways, but that's essentially the question they're asking. And there are very important ways that you want to approach your answer. But when you approach your answer, you can learn a lot about the college actually, and why it might be or not be a good choice for you. And we're going to basically give you some thoughts about financial paperwork that we want you ready, that you can be gathering this summer, and we want you ready for. If you come on live with us, we will also answer other questions that don't quite fit in or are very particular to you. So we would love that to happen. So what we wanted to start with is a basic college knowledge quiz. And I will just, you'll be able to, if you're watching this, you'll be able to link, because I'll be sending this PowerPoint. You'll be able to link to this and take it yourself. But we're going to kind of go through each of these one by one. We have some slides that cover the answers, but since we don't have any of you, we'll just do it while we're in the slideshow. Okay. So the first thing we're wondering, what do you know about colleges and universities, and what do you need to know? So one thing that, why do I feel like one of the questions got eliminated here when I was doing editing? That's okay. I'm going to start with a question that fell out of order. And the question is, what is a liberal arts college? So Judy, do you want to read us what some of the answers might be?
So a liberal arts college, you can choose that would say a college where people mainly vote Democrat, a college
where you can only study a few classes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Judy,
it's closer to you. You can
yeah.
read them.
A college which offers majors in a wide variety of subjects within humanities, social sciences, and sciences, or is it a university in the United States? So Diego, what do you think the answer is? Diego, are you with us? Did we lose Diego?
We might have, but
We
one
might
of
have.
the things that I think everybody could say that it's not a college where people mainly vote Democrat. So a lot of Democrats go to liberal arts colleges, but that doesn't mean.
Oh, we're supposed to be right here.
Can you hear me?
Diego, now we can. Did we lose you?
I don't know. Something's up with my computer today. I don't know what's going on, but the answer is C. College offers majors in a wide variety of subjects in the humanities, social sciences, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, Diego.
Good job.
Good job. We want you to know that because we're going to talk later about some colleges that aren't really considered liberal arts colleges. So that's something that we want you to know right up front. And let's go to this one. What jobs can you get from a liberal arts college? It's listing all kinds of jobs here. And there's some jobs in the first three. It's listing a bunch of different kinds of jobs in the first two and many of the jobs have nothing to do with one another. And then the third option is a liberal arts degree helps to teach you to read, write, think, and problem solve critically. It will prepare you for any job that does not require very specific skills before starting, or a license or a certification. However, you can get licenses and certifications at liberal arts colleges. You can also get them. Some of them don't take long to get, so you can get them afterwards as well. So the answer to this is all of the above. You can get these and many other jobs at liberal arts colleges. I think something that employers tell us, and me as an employer will tell you, that basically we want to make sure that you that many people will teach you the very specific things that you need to learn on the job. But we really want people who are flexible. We want people, when we're hiring for professional jobs, we want people who are able to do lots of different things, but that they can think, they can problem solve. And most employers are looking for that because jobs change. And training requirements change. So it's way more important that you're somebody who, if you don't know how to figure something out, you know how to research it. You know how, and you know whether when you're researching something, whether it's probably correct or not. And that really can come from, you can be a philosophy major and become really good at problem solving, right? There's a lot of people who have jobs where they have to write or read for a living. And, they have to, or like a data scientist, for instance, has to understand a lot of things, not just be good at math, but they have to be able to know something about the data they're working with and the subject. They have to know how to learn, and they have to know how to be a learner. And that's something a liberal arts college can help you with. So we're going to use that term a lot. You're going to hear it in your senior sem class. You're going to hear it from your college counselors. So we wanted to make sure that's something we talked about in these. Is the FAFSA the only form that you have to fill out related to financial aid, and you only complete it once? Is that true, or is that false?
I'm going to jump in and say that's false, Carolyn.
So, Diego, could you give us some examples of what other kinds of forms you have to fill out?
So just one of note outside of FAFSA is the CSS Profile, which is sometimes a tedious form that more exclusive schools bring in to get a deeper dive into family financials. Can be a good thing, though, because typically if a CSS profile is required at a school, they tend to have some money to throw around. So it's worth the work in a lot of cases. And then that's just one form that some of you will absolutely fill out. There are many other college-specific forms that will come through your email and physical mail as we go through the application process and then into the spring. There are so many required forms that will go through. You cannot make a mistake, I should say, in missing these emails and that important communication. So yes, there are many forms, Carolyn, that go along with financial aid.
And I'm going to tell you that different people get them depending on the college you actually end up attending or the ones that you really do apply to. You might get something called a verification form. There's all kinds of things. I literally got a text message from Edward Merida yesterday, forwarded me something from Roger Williams saying that he's got another form to fill out. I haven't even gotten back to him yet because it's like, I can't imagine what it is.
I was on the phone with Natalie Vargas yesterday morning.
Yep.
Doing the same thing.
So, I mean, there's still, and the reason that they're going to ask you to do this stuff, and even though you might consider it a pain, but they're looking to give you a lot of money for free. Mm-hmm. So that is why they have the right, and they're going to ask a lot of questions. So that's the case. So
with
yeah.
filling those out, there are people here to help you because it's critically important that you fill it out correctly, because if you send wrong information, then you're not going to get the correct package. So that's why we work very closely with you to make sure you understand all of the answers and responses. And that when you're filling this out with your data as well as your parents' data or your guardian's data, that it is accurate.
So that's just a little hint on the financial aid. It's a lot of paperwork. That's the big message. Final question. When thinking about locations, what is the difference between urban, suburban, and rural campuses? This is something I think because many of you grew up in one location, you don't actually often know some of the differences. So what do we have here? Urban campuses are in a city. Suburban campuses are in communities that may have some shopping and other businesses, but not like a city. Suburbs are usually located within an hour of a city, though. Rural locations tend to be filled with nature, with lots of land, which is not built on. Another option, urban campuses aren't really campuses. They are part of the city. Suburban campuses have less to do than urban ones. Rural campuses have limited things to do. Number 3, there are no differences between those 3 things or all of the above. Anyone?
It's definitely not. There are no differences, because there are some significant differences. Very few campuses located in a city, have a true campus feel, but there
some
are
do.
some that do.
Some
There are
do.
some that do.
So
Absolutely.
so that's why we're going to go for number one in this one.
Right.
Okay. Because I think some kids say, I only want to be in a city because I need things to do. Depending on the college, I mean, there's a few different things to consider. I went to a college in a suburb that was actually, the land that it was on was rural, but it was, I guess it would be considered a suburb, but there was a ton to do because there were 5 colleges all within 20 minutes of each other, 15 or 20 minutes of each other. One was a major university, and there was a bus system that ran all the time and took you to anything you wanted to go to. So there was a ton to do. There are some small colleges where they just have a lot to do. There's some that don't have as much to do. So it's like, it can vary. So
Even
yeah.
with your big universities that are very rural, there's so much, and it's almost like a city, the university itself, because it's so big and they have to have so much on campus. It feels like a city, but it's on its own property, but there's nothing around it. So if you left campus, that's when you realize that you're either out in the woods, or even if you
Right.
looked at URI, you're near the ocean, but there isn't anything else around and close by, but there's a lot to do on its campus.
That's right. And so I think you need to be a little open-minded about locations when they ask you, because a lot of times in search engines, when you're looking at college lists, they're going to ask you that question. And you should try to put your preferences in. Hopefully more than one is your preference. And I know a lot of you didn't get to visit a lot of schools, so you don't even know what a suburban campus, a typical one might look like, but I'm hoping you'll be open to some. Now, I think there are those of you who might be like, I am not going to the middle of absolutely nowhere. And that's legit. We do have one person that in this year's graduating class who is going to a college in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And it's a very difficult college to get into, Middlebury College. Lizbeth, maybe we'll have her on at a different session, but she needed to know that she would consider Vermont. It's in Vermont, and it's a beautiful location, but it is nothing around you. So they have to have lots on the campus to keep people, busy. But her parents had to go visit and make sure they got over the shock that it was in the middle of nowhere, because they're from Central Falls, right? So they're not used to the middle of nowhere. So those are just some things that we want you all to consider, and just some pieces of knowledge, so we're all talking about the same stuff. Okay, so that was our search. We clarified this stuff. I don't think we have to, we gave some examples of them. Wheaton, Connecticut, Providence College. Those are all some typical, what we would call liberal arts colleges. We also want to talk about business schools for a minute and what they're all about. And because there are some colleges that do sell themselves or market themselves as colleges that are mainly focused on business. You can take other majors there, but if you really are sure that you want to study business, it could be accounting, management, entrepreneurship, economics, and you're quite sure of it, those are some schools to look at. Babson, Bryant, and Bentley are 3 B1s, schools with the name B, that are in the local area. And we actually have somebody who's starting at Bentley and got a complete full scholarship there. Let's hope she enjoys it, because everything got paid for her to go there. But those are schools that I will say, if you have no interest in business, if that's not one of your very top interests, then it's probably not a school for you to look at. Okay. And those schools might tell you differently. They might say, oh, come on, if you want to do something else. But we're going to say from experience, you probably aren't going to be thrilled And we think there's schools that could offer you more if business isn't at the very top. We also want to say that most people that end up majoring in business don't go to a specific business school, because you can major in business at most schools. So it's, but it's just something for you to know. Tech schools. I changed it down to tech from technology, but there are schools, they could be 2 years. Some of them are certificate programs. Some are 2 years programs. Some have 4-year programs, but these are very specialized schools that if you want to do something with tech, they now, like a school like New England Tech is one of them. New England Tech also offers an engineering major. It offers some other 4-year degrees, but their specialty is really for students who don't want to have to take a lot of other liberal arts courses. And they mainly want to focus in on, say, computer design or repair, or, there's some very specific things. So, but they're not a liberal arts school. They don't. And even I see that they offer something like criminal justice, which is more something you could take at a liberal arts school. I would say probably more readily, but, New England Tech would not agree with me, but I would say, you want to look at some of those schools if you're somebody who's looking for something quite specific. Specialty schools, other specialty schools. These are things like, you might be somebody who you've been working in a restaurant for a couple of years. You watch food TV like crazy. You've done a lot. You've talked a lot. You've spent a lot of time, and you absolutely know that's something you want to do. Or you're extremely talented in one of the arts, and it could be in anything from music or drawing, film sometimes even. There are some schools that that's primarily what they are offering, right? And and for some of these schools, you need to do a portfolio, or you need to do a video presentation in order to do it. We've had students go to some of these schools. I will say, with the exception of Rhode Island School of Design, the financial aid packages at these schools tend to be disappointing. They just don't have the money to give. So we've had some students who've gotten into a Berklee College of Music, but did not get anywhere near the money that they needed. So, that's just a warning, but doesn't say don't apply to them. It just is like something that you should know. One final thing before we get into some other major stuff we want to cover is some specific majors that most of you are going, you may not know what major, or you're just starting to really say, well, maybe this or maybe that. But engineering and nursing are 2 majors that we wanted to address in our first workshop. Just some couple of things before you consider these majors. We've had, by the way, graduates of Blackstone become engineers and nurses, and some of them have done it. Most of them have done it through a traditional engineering or nursing program, but we want you to know that there's lots of different ways to do it. But the first thing you need to know is, if you're absolutely sure that you want to be an engineer, for instance, you need to know that these majors are requiring very specific courses and a sequence of courses. And you're going to start out with these very hard courses right away. And it's different from other majors. You're going to have less choices in electives even. And there might be minimum grades that you need to get. For instance, in nursing majors, if you get a C, in some cases a B- in certain classes, you have to take it again. Not an F, but a C or a B-, because there's they're like, hey, do you want a nurse taking care of you who was only a C student in that class? No, actually, I want somebody who's more proficient than that. So, so you need to know that these majors, and the same with engineering, they're going to be, if you're not performing well, very well, pretty early into things, they're going to recommend that you might take a different course. They might recommend that you try a different major, or they might recommend that you do the program a little differently. We want to tell you that these are majors that you can transfer into. Sometimes it might take you longer to do it, but you can. But the first thing you need to know is that if you are not ready to do lots of difficult math and science right away, if those aren't strengths, you need to be talking to us about what you want to choose for a major that might be related and might get you into something that you're interested in with this, but doing it differently. Something a lot of people don't realize is that there are multiple ways to work in engineering and work in the medical field without getting those specific degrees. We've also had some alumni who maybe they weren't ready to do the nursing program right away, but they did a different program and then they eventually got to nursing when they were ready for it. Or they started as a biology major and then had the flexibility once they did well in it. They decided, hey, I'm going to look later maybe at physician assistant or some other some other health careers. So because this is we've had kids fail out of these majors before. Other majors, not as much. These are two that not just Blackstone grads, but in general, this is where people can fail out early. And so we don't want anybody to go through that. So we want you to talk to us. Also, hopefully, if you're interested in engineering or nursing, you have done something significant, like you've been part of the ACE program if you're an engineering major, or something else related. They're going to want to see that you have. We had several students that have gotten accepted to nursing programs that did their CNA class through the Advanced Course Network and spent time volunteering in a setting, or in some cases working in a healthcare setting. That tells the college, even if you've got good grades, that starts to tell the college that you're ready. Those are the kids that are getting accepted. Because you might have always thought you wanted to do it, but our best advice might be take more time to explore. Diego, you got anything on that?
If the opportunity presents itself, take advantage of it. Like Carolyn mentioned, that CNA course through the Advanced Course Network has been so vital for so many kids that have gone into nursing over the last few years. But then just other external learning opportunities to really get in there, get your hands dirty. But also, again, you got to hit the books. You got to absolutely be strong in the math and science areas. You should be thinking about rigor as we think about course selection for the fall, right? Taking that extra science course, that extra math course would be, really important in your application process.
I heard that we're going to have 2 sections of calculus.
Even better.
There's so many kids that are doing pre-calc, either did it this year or are doing it over the summer. So that's good, because we have had you really won't get accepted to an engineering program with just Algebra 2. And it can be a challenge with just pre-calc. And the same with nursing. The higher you can take, and the more you can challenge yourself, the more likely you're going to get accepted if that's really what you're trying to do.
And I also think it's important to understand where you fit in the grand scheme of things in terms of the difficult course load in, first semester, senior year. See if you can handle that. And if you can handle that and you're doing well, then you're making, a good move in thinking about these as potential majors.
All right. So Now, what do you need to know about you to put together your list and to start to work on your applications? Which, by the way, we don't want you to actually work on your application yet, but we want to get you very ready. And the reason I say we don't want you to get it started yet is Senior Seminar is going to get you started, like with the official Common App, and it's important that we do it that way because they're going to make sure it's all done well. Okay. There's some specific ways, but what do you need to know? Because we can get you very ready. And what are some things you need to know about yourself? We could have made this even longer list, but we're going to try to go through some of this with you. These are some questions you need to ask yourself. And as you go into some of the resources that we're going to share with you, these are some of the things we want to make sure that you've asked yourself. And you may not know the answer to all of these questions, but, try to dig deep around yourself and be honest where you stand, because it's going to help you in choosing and getting your list pared down. So
even if you looked at the first question and it starts with, are you willing to live on campus? One of the other questions I would have you ask, do most of the students live on campus? And if they do, what will you miss out? So if you go to a school where 95% of the students are residential, how are you going to feel as a commuter? Some of you will handle it just fine, but it'll be a completely different experience than for everyone else. There are other schools that half of them do commute, so it's not a big deal. So as you look at that, are you willing to live on campus? Also, do you want to live on campus? And then how far are you willing to travel if you don't live on campus? Diego always talked about how he would take the bus sometimes back and forth to Providence, or for some of our students who go to URI. What do you have? Do you have a car available to you? Will you have to depend on public transportation? And the big one here, because we were dealing with this with some of our students at the very end, does your family agree with these choices? Or will getting to an agreement be part of the process? Some students' parents do not want them to go far away. So they already have to know that this is a process that they'll have to work on all year long with their parents to get them to agree that they can go and move away from home. They will not be at home. They will not be living in their own homes.
I think that one of the things that I also want to say when I asked that, how far are you willing to travel? I'm also asking, where in the country are you willing or not willing to go? So you need to know, am I willing to go a couple of hours away? Am I willing to go 5 hours away? Maybe I have relatives who live in another state. They live in North Carolina. I've been there, so I'm actually comfortable going there. We've got an alumni who really was brave and went to school in the Midwest, in Minnesota, which is cold and whatever. But this student had traveled to his relatives in not so far from there, and had felt comfortable going to a place that they weren't familiar with. We've got a student right now who is in the Pacific Northwest in college. So it's like, and another thing I just want to mention about this, when you're talking to your families about it, I had a young woman a couple of years ago who really wanted to think about Florida as a place that she went to college. We found a great college for her to apply to there, but her mother wanted nothing to do. Her mother barely could process that she might live not in her home. But I will tell you, once this student got her acceptance and her financial aid package, and it was going to cost about the same to go there as it would to University of Rhode Island. And her mother agreed to visit it, and she's there now. She goes to that college. So sometimes it can happen. Sometimes, families don't want, and you do have to consider that you might not be able to come home as much and all those kind of things. But that's something just to figure out. Start figuring out. How open-minded are you to that? Next one, are you looking for a school that is small, large, or medium? You don't even know what that means, right? Because we have a school, Blackstone Academy is very small for high school. It's 350 students. There are very few colleges in the country that are as small as us. Most small colleges are around 1,000, 1,200 students. That's a small college. That's way bigger. To you guys, that's big. So, but as you're able to go visit some schools and see some campuses, and I hope you're able to at least drive on to some this summer, start to see what that means. And also, even the size of the campus, it's spread over acres and acres, blocks and blocks. How far? Most schools, you've got to walk pretty far to get to different classes. I mean, that's always a surprise to people. So kind of getting an idea. Something we will tell you is there's advantages and disadvantages of small versus larger, or medium versus larger. When you're at a smaller college, often your class sizes are going to be very small, and you will actually know your professors and they'll know you. Sometimes at a big university, you're going to be, especially your first few years, you might be in some lecture classes of hundreds of people. When you get further up in your major, your classes might get smaller. What an advantage at a bigger school is that you may be able to do some research, right? You might be able to do that at a smaller school too, but there might be some things, or there might be some opportunities that you wouldn't see. So there's things to look at both.
And with that, what Carolyn was just talking about is, I think this is where you need to do real research on those colleges, because if you're at a big, large research institution that has graduate school, you're not going to get those research opportunities. But if you're a smaller liberal arts college where those faculty want to do research and there's no graduate school, you'll get the opportunity. So you have to know yourself and know, what do you want? Do you want to be working closely with a faculty member when you're first year, second year, third year, and fourth year, and not have to worry about it not till your senior year because you're competing with graduate students?
Diego, were you about to say something?
No, I was gonna jump into the next one.
Go.
When you're ready.
Go.
All right. So if you've heard me talk about anything college related in the planning process, you've heard me talk about those non-negotiables, and the next couple, fall into that category. What do you absolutely need to have around you in order for you to be happy and successful and do everything you need to do, and take care of business, so to speak, wherever you are at school? This on the right here, we have, medical services is obviously a huge one. If you need that medical attention for whatever it is, you need to be close to home for, a particular doctor or whatever. That's obviously super, super important. But then getting down into personal preference and your hobbies and your likes, what is it that you need to have, right? I always think about, we have had so many kids that have done dance in the past. Do you need a particular school to have a dance team or a dance studio or classes that are available to you, whether that's on campus or off campus, right? We mentioned culture and being able to have a dynamic food and, lively culture around us. So many of us are used to that. So what else is there at a particular school or in that surrounding area? What does it have to have for you to be successful and happy and, check those boxes of those non-negotiables? What are the extras? What are all the other pieces to the puzzle that aren't academic or location or finances? What are those little bells and whistles that you absolutely must have?
One of the questions I ask are there religious or moral teachings that are important to you or that turn you off? When you read about colleges, what values does the college need to have? I do want to say two things about religious schools. One is that in this area in New England, where most of you will end up applying to college, there actually are some very good schools that are religiously affiliated, primarily the Catholic Church. Something you need to know is you don't need to be Catholic to apply or get into those schools. They're very open about people from no religion to whatever applying. But you want to know, some of them are much more or less kind of like you'd feel that a little more on the campus. Some of them you don't even realize that you're, I can remember going years ago to a visit at Assumption College, for instance, and we were greeted, we got off the bus with a bunch of students we were visiting with Spirit, and we were greeted by this guy who was like I don't want to say a monk, but he, in an outfit that looked like one. He was a brother. He was so nice and welcoming. He brought us in, and the first thing he said is, "We're a Catholic school, but we don't care if you're Catholic." And you don't have to go to mass or anything he was very good. And I think that it kind of said to me right away, okay, you're not going to you're not limiting in thought. But there are some schools like at Providence College, that is a Catholic college. You have to take 2 years of a course it's not just about religion, but it's sort of a philosophy. It's a good course if you like a lot of reading and writing, but you have to take it, and it's something they value. So you want to know some things like that, and it is related to them wanting you, and it is very Christian centric. When I say, I don't think that course, it's like Western civilization. It's not going to, it's not a big diversity aware course. Okay. There's just things like that you want to sort of learn about, and even ask students on campus if you can, either through chats or if you visit, what, how that impacts them. Don't immediately say no to a school because of their religious, but find out more. Okay. Because we've had kids who actually, have gone to different schools. Brandeis University is another one I can think of. Brandeis University is a school that, it's a very competitive school, very, challenging to get into, but lots of people that go there, every student we've had go there has really liked it. But their main affiliation, their history is they were formed by Jewish people after World War II because they wanted a really top-notch university. Jewish people found they were discriminated against sometimes often in the admissions process at Ivy League schools. So they started Brandeis, and none of our kids that have gone there have been Jewish, right? And most of the students who go there are, although Arabic students go there. I mean, there's different. So it is, there's a lot of things about the school value-wise that a lot of our students like. There's a Catholic school that I can think of that offers a Salve Regina. They have a big service is a big value of theirs because they were started by an order of nuns that their value is giving service to community. Does that sound familiar? So, and so when they read our students' essays, they love all the service, and that is something that they're expecting their students to do. So it can be a values match sometimes for our students. I do want to say, please don't tell us that you chose a school because of their study abroad, unless it's unique. So we can say this. Most colleges, almost every college, offers study abroad. And sometimes, and usually you can only do it for 1 or 2 semesters. You do want to kind of see where are the places that most people go and study abroad. Sometimes it's cheaper for them to go their junior year somewhere else, believe it or not, because the housing might be cheaper. But look more at the specifics, because maybe you're very interested in study abroad, but you're looking for something specific, right? Or a specific place. And if you find out you could never go to that specific place in their study abroad, then you want to look at some schools that do. But just about every school you're going to look at does offer that. So think about, again, What are you likely wanting to major in? Or do you have some ideas? Are you completely unsure? And I want to say to you, if you are completely unsure, like not even clueless, well, then you better go back and do some of your Zello and see what are some of the top hits. What are some of the broad areas that you're coming out with, and then we can work with you on what some of the majors might be, that you're going to want to look at. Finally, what type of diversity is important to you? And I ask that way for a specific reason. I think a lot of us think of diversity. We think of ethnic and racial diversity. We think of a school like Blackstone, where, my God, we have such an array of people from different countries, from different backgrounds. However, we're not very economically diverse at Blackstone Academy. We are, there's some parts of us are not that diverse, right? And you also want to know, sometimes you might look at a school, many colleges are getting, their data is going to show way more ethnic and racial diversity than it used to, because since they stopped requiring SATs because of COVID, that helped them to actually access more students from a bigger pool. However, I will tell you that sometimes you might see like, oh, they have 20% Hispanic students. Well, something I'm hearing from alumni is when they get to the campus, sometimes that 20% Hispanic, only about 5% of those students are actually similar to some of our kids who are Hispanic economically. They might be students who are very wealthy and are paying full price and they're coming to the school internationally, or they're just coming in a different way. So is it that you'd rather be at a school that's got, even if economic diversity is there, or would you be more comfortable? Do you want to know that there's plenty of students who might be first in family to attend their college? What are the parts of diversity that are important? And what can you find out as you dig deeper? What can you find out about that college and what types of diversity are important to them? Because that, and that can be harder to find out, but, these are, as you dig, you got to get deeper. Okay. We just want to give you an introduction to that process. So I've got a couple of videos we want to show you that give some different perspectives on ways to find out, ways to figure out how you and a college are a good match and what is fit. How do you figure it out? We've got some couple of people that are going to give you some advice. I'm going to start with Barb.
How to make a list of colleges to apply to. Okay, this is the rule of thumb my college counselor told me. A quarter reaches, half targets, and a quarter safeties. I was a little stubborn and did 4 reaches, 5 targets, and only 2 safeties. You guys are probably curious, so I'll show you my college list. Okay, here it is. These are my reaches, targets, and safeties. Pick 3 things that are most important to your college experience. For example, I wanted a medium to large school, an urban setting, and a business undergrad program. Almost all the schools I applied to have this unless there's something extra that made up for it. Also, I'm personally against the idea of applying to like 20 schools. I only applied to 11. If you really do your research, that's perfectly reasonable. And my last word of advice, please make sure you love your safeties just as much as your targets and reaches. How prestigious it is aside, make sure you see yourself there. How to make a list of colleges to apply to.
All right, so that was Barb. Barb's a little loud. Okay. What were some things, Judy and Diego, that you heard from Barb that you think are important to emphasize?
We've had some crazy long lists in the past couple years, and that number 11 for Barb, if we can do that research and find those matches, 11 is a fine number. But again, it's about the detail that you do in your research.
I'd also say her advice about making sure that all of the schools, whether she called them a sure school, a safety school, or a targeted school, that you do love them. And don't look at this as a school for sure I can get into and then feel like, but I'm not happy about it, because then you're already going in with a negative attitude. I'm also going to say, I think today, I don't necessarily agree that there is any real safety school anymore. I think that every school that has an acceptance rate of 50% and under is going to be difficult to get into. Any school that's 50% or higher, you might want to say, okay, there's a really good chance I can get in there. But the applications are so high for every school. There's so much that they're considering that I think you have to know that you have to have a list of colleges that you want to go to and not assume I'm absolutely going to get into that school. You have to put your best foot forward for every school that you're going into, which is why I loved her advice. Like the schools that you're considering, I should definitely get into.
And we
Carolyn,
will go ahead. Yeah.
Are you seeing videos on your end, or is it just the audio?
No, we saw the video.
We saw the video. Did you not
Oh,
see it?
Yeah, I only heard the audio.
Oh dear. Okay.
I see the photo of Tanya and then the links, but I'm not seeing the actual video.
We were able to get it, so.
Well, I'm
we'll
just
try.
wondering, so I don't know what's being recorded then. That's interesting. Well, I will make sure that we share. Well, so when we'll have to see what happens with the links, but thank you for telling me that, because I don't know, other than if there weren't permissions or some crazy thing, but I'm hoping, well, we'll see what happens next.
Yeah.
This next one, let's see, hold on a second, because you know what
college list.
I just realized what I have to do. Let me, I know what happened and why you didn't see it. I think what happens is that I need to make sure in terms of the share, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to put these in another tab first.
Okay.
Like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I think that's what I'm going to have to do. And then I will, yeah, give me just 1 second and I will go back to my place, but I have a feeling that's why. Okay. Not being very slick on my part. Let me just.
While Carolyn does that, one thing I wanted to mention is I wrote it down. We went 55 minutes without mentioning Zello, and the importance that as you go through this self-exploration, trying to figure out, what you want to do, what you want to major in, what your future looks like, take advantage of going back into Zello and making those, going through those inventories again. So they'll be part of your portfolio for level 4, to get through to graduation, but there's so many valuable tools on Zello. Take advantage, especially going in and looking at like the matchmaker again, right? You may have done that, 2-3 years ago as a freshman. Redo that, see what changed. Maybe your thoughts and your tastes have, shifted, and you might be surprised by what you see.
Okay, I am just going to do a certain tab to start because I want to do the, I want to make sure I'm picking the right tab just because, not USC, it should be this one. Yes. And then, can you see now?
Yep, I see it.
Great. Okay, that's what it was.
Ideally,
Let me start her again. Sorry.
You might want to mute or turn the volume off on one of them because I'm getting like an echo feedback.
Yeah, I'm starting again.
The ideal college list has 10 schools on it. Ideally, you want to choose 3 likelies, 4 targets, and 3 reaches. A likely means that your GPA in testing exceeds the average for admission. A target means that your GPA in testing fall within the average pool for admission. And a reach means that your GPA in testing fall below admission or that the school only accepts 30 to 40% of students. A well-balanced college list means you can still shoot for the stars while ensuring at least 1 college acceptance.
So one of the things that I loved about this video is that it really redefines what a reach is. Speaking to Judy's point earlier, that students used to think of reaches as just their aspirational schools that they knew were hard to get into, but that they felt they had a chance of getting into because they looked at the grade point average. In the past, they looked at the test scores and they thought they fit in. The new definition and the way that we really want to consider a reach is any school that is less than 40% all day long, and sometimes 50 depending. But as she said, schools that are, anywhere from 5% acceptances to 30 and 40%, they might seem easy to get into, and you might think, oh, of course I can get into those. But we happen to know that is actually not an automatic thing anymore, and because of the number of applicants. So we'll work with you on that, but that's really an important point on her video. Very important point. Finally, one other tip, the next video that I'm going to share, again, I don't even know what you're looking at now, Diego.
I can see the same creating a well-balanced college list, the TikTok, the girl with the glasses.
All right, let me just get to another. I'm going to try to.
The ideal college list
I'm
has
going
10
back to
schools on
her.
it.
I just have to go back and wherever I was. And I'm going to try.
Florida.
Well, maybe we're not going to show him right now because he's being a pain.
Yeah,
But
you can fix it before
I
you
can-
send it out.
Yeah, that's one you can see on your own. And I'm just going to go back to my Meet and do my show again because,
It's past 6.
we have a couple of things. We're going to go a few more minutes because we have a few more things we want to cover. But I am going to, let me just get back to the, back to where I was. Okay. And we're going to keep moving. All right. So we have, and we spoke to you about some of these, and there were a handful of students that I know have already dug into these resources. Okay. But we put together some links here that we would like you to use. And we're only going to show you, we only have time to show you probably one example. But the first thing that we want you to use for a resource, we'd like you to try to use at least 2 of these. But we want you to start with the college data one, just because we got to pick one, and then you could pick another. I do want to say I've got Zello on here as a resource. I will tell you that their college search library is kind of limited. So it's not the top one I would have you use. But let's just show you, well, you know what? I don't know that I have time to show you a lot with these, but I'm going to tell you a little about what some of the advantages are. First of all, you all have College Board accounts. So, or I believe you do. And if you don't, figure it out because you're going to be using it next year for some things anyway. But their Big Future College Board search program is good. It's they've updated it some as well. You can put in all your interests. You can put in all the questions that and more that we talked about. And those filters will help you to come up with an initial list that you can take a look at. College data, I would like you all to make an account on that. One of the reasons is, and College Greenlight CAPEX, those are 2 of the ones that it's worth making an account and letting them send you emails. They have a fantastic library of resources. They will send you stuff like when it's time to choose your college because you've gotten your acceptance rejections wait list. They're going to keep sending you stuff, giving you advice. It's really, they are very helpful and they're well curated articles. They're ones that we use and we feel like the industry uses that is advising students across the country. College data, something that's good on their website is that you can put in your things, but you can put your GPA in and you can put some other things about you. And it's going to give you some idea where you fall in the pack of their recently admitted students. If you see that as someone with a 3.2 GPA, there is way fewer people that get accepted with that GPA than there is people who have a GPA. If the majority are closer to a 4.0, then you really may be barking up the wrong tree by having them on your list. You probably are right off the bat. And even though that might be disappointing to you, it's really important that you start to recognize that there are just some colleges that are highly selective. I don't care how nice you are, how wonderful you are, how much we think you're the best person in the world. You're not getting in probably to those schools. It just is a fact. Even if you're a 4.0, you're going to have a hard time with some of these schools. And this year we got plenty of kids who got waitlisted or rejected to some schools that I think they thought they were just, right for. And this speaks to competitiveness, but it also helps you to sort of see what type of students gives you that kind of data. So it's a great start. You also can click in and read more about the college. I usually would have the FIS guide up here. I just found out that, and that's a book that we really like people to use that are looking at competitive colleges, so they can read a lot about them. And it's kind of from the perspective from students who have gone there and people that have been there. It gives you a lot of information the college themselves might not tell you, but it gives you a real feel sometimes in an objective way. They had a book online, like I was able to get students' accounts so you could do it yourself. Right now, they don't have that. So one thing I will tell you is that we have got lots of college search books at Blackstone that we're here, especially through the first week of August. We're here almost every day, if not every day. So let us know you want to come by and we'll let you borrow one of these resource books. They can be important. But in the meantime, let's start here. The first assignment that we want to give you is to really use these and other resources to get a really good, thoughtful long list. And the long list can be 6 schools. It could be 25 schools. It shouldn't be more than 25 schools. But I think that if you use any of these, and particularly, I think, from the time we do this workshop till the next one, there's going to be a 2-week window. So I want to challenge you all to use at least 2 of these. See what schools come up in common, depending on which ones you use. See which ones, and then start looking at some of the similarities between them. We can help you with that, but we want you to do that. It's really going to help you to eliminate or know what schools around here might you want to visit. Which schools might you want to get on their website? Which schools do you want to really get? Or you might want to say to us, can you tell me an alumni I could talk to that goes there? Because yes, we can, probably in the cases of many of the schools. So, or somebody who has recently graduated, right? So these are some things that if you can get going on this and make this happen, we're going to be in great shape for our next workshop.
Can I just add?
Yes.
There is an Excel document that I've been working on. Now, Carolyn will look at it too, and we can send to you. It has some of those key questions that we asked you before about what are some of the non-negotiables that have to be there. How far away is it? Do you have to live on campus? Just some general questions. So when you're filling it out, it'll also help you to understand what it is that the college gives you everything that you're looking for and which ones don't give you everything. It's just a small list to get you started as you're creating your list.
We're hoping that you all have written down, after watching this, some burning questions. there might be things we didn't talk about or you don't think we're going to talk about that you really want to know, they're burning questions, please feel free to email. And please, hopefully you can come live. I know the 5 o'clock start time might not ever work for some of you, but we are here. Diego and I are here pretty much every day. Kylene's are like a lot of us are here through the first week of August. And then, you know, we're back for some planning August 23rd. We're going to be not here for some of August, but we are actually on site so we can answer and work with you individually and talk about your specific needs. These are dates that we've got scheduled for these workshops. And the time we're going to do probably at 5 p.m. unless I hear from a bunch of you that, hey, if you did this other time, we could actually come on the meeting. We're going to have some alumni and others, so it won't just be us talking at you. And we'll be able to have more interaction if you come. So I know Diego has an announcement he wants to share, and we're going to email everyone about related to a college fair. Go D.
Yep. So you see there's obviously a 1 week gap in the dates for these workshops. And that's because next Wednesday is actually the college fair at Summer at Brown. So I mentioned this all the way back when we were going to our college fair at Bridgewater State back in May. So this is going to be your second opportunity to get live interaction with college admissions counselors. So details, the event runs 6 to 8:30. You're more than welcome to go on your own, but Blackstone will be providing transportation. So this is an event, you know, I want kids to show up for. So if you want to come on down nice and early, get some food, get some dinner before we go to the fair. We're going to be meeting over at Blackstone for about 5 o'clock next week. We'll eat, we'll get on the road about 5:30, and then, you know, be at the college fair for a while until everybody gets their fill. So we have a couple vans going out. So I will send that email with all these details, as well as a Google form for you to sign up. Again, highly encouraged. I'm especially looking at you students who are really aiming for the sky. There's going to be a lot of high-end schools in attendance that you might not typically see in our area, right? They're not necessarily going to have, we're not going to have access to them. So take advantage of the opportunity. Let your bosses know, let your parents know you need next Wednesday night off, and look forward to that email.
So I think, you know, thanks for watching this. Again, you know how to find us. I'm going to be, well, you'll know when you're watching it that I've sent it out to you in many forms. So you'll be able to review it and tell your friends about this and encourage them to take a look at it as well. Thanks so much. We're going to sign off shortly.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, when the recording is finished, it will be saved in the organized meet recording folders in the Google Drive. Okay, I needed to see that because I don't
Okay.
usually, so then I can see where I can.
There we go. All right.